Okay, so now is the time and place for a meeting of the Beaverton Planning Commission. For the record, I will do roll call to verify which commission members are participating this evening. Let the record show we have Commissioner Ellis, Commissioner Akal, and Commissioner Lawler present. I believe Commissioner Winter might be joining us a little bit later. Commissioners Glenwinkle and Commissioner Nye are absent and excused. So we are now at Commission Communications. Commissioners, do you have any communications this evening? I don't see any. So we'll move on to staff communications.
Good evening, Chair McCann. Anna Slatinsky, Planning Division Manager for the City of Beaverton. I just have a couple of little quick announcements. The city is looking forward to Arbor Day this year, which is April 6th. And the city is going to celebrate by planting 40 trees in the Greenway neighborhood. The Urban Forestry Department and Friends of Trees has a nice collaborative relationship, and after the trees are planted, Urban Forestry will water and maintain the trees for up to 2 years until they are established. Also, just FYI, the city library will be closed on Thursday, March 14th, in order to allow for staff training that day. And that is all of the announcements that I have tonight.
Great, thank you. That sounds great. All right, the only item on the agenda is the application for LU 3 2023-00715 Fox Hollow PUD modifications. Case file numbers PUD 3 2023-00722 and PS2 2023-00713. The applicant has the burden of proving that the applications are consistent with the Beaverton Development Code, comprehensive plan, and any applicable Beaverton Code provision. The criteria that must be addressed in the hearing are 40.03.1, the Facilities Review Committee, 40.15.15.8C, Planned Unit Development, 40.45.15.5C, Preliminary Subdivision, and 50.95, modification of a decision. Testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward these approval criteria or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or development code that the speaker believes to apply to the application. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to allow the Planning Commission and other interested parties an opportunity to respond to the issue may preclude an appeal to Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Anyone who submits written comments or gives oral testimony has standing to appeal the decision. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to the proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the city to respond to the issue may preclude an action for damages in circuit court. State and local law require commissioners to make certain disclosures. To these ends, the following questions will be asked. Does any commissioner have a potential or actual conflict of interest, ex parte contacts, or site visits to declare? Commissioner Akal.
None to all three.
Okay. Commissioner Ellis.
I transit Schultz Ferry and Tile Flat as recently as today, all the time, but no specific site visits and nothing to declare.
Okay. Commissioner Lawler.
No to all three.
All right, and no to all three as well, for myself as well. Does any member of the audience wish to question a commissioner about ex parte contacts or site visits or challenge the right of any commissioner to participate in this hearing? It looks like we have none. So let the record show no response. In the order of the public hearing tonight will be as follows. City staff will give a presentation followed by commissioners' questions of staff. The applicant will be given 20 minutes for its presentation, followed by the commission's questions of the applicant. Then members of the public in support of the application can speak for up to 5 minutes each. Then members of the public opposed to the application can speak for up to 5 minutes each. Members of the public who are neither in support nor opposed will then have 5 minutes to speak. After public testimony, the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal. The Planning Commission will then hear any final comments from staff. We will now begin with the staff presentation.
Thank you, Chair McCann. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Steve Regner. I'm the interim current planning manager for the current planning division with the City of Beaverton. The application before you tonight is LU3 2023-00715 Fox Hollow Plan Unit Development Modifications. Case files PUD3 2023-00722 and PS2 2023-00713. The application before you tonight is a request to modify a previously approved plan unit development at Fox Hollow at Cooper Mountain. A majority of the changes will be happening in phases 5, 6, and 7 of the PUD. The proposal includes removing attached and multifamily housing and replacing it instead with alley-loaded housing and a new local street. This change will reduce the overall dwelling unit count from 461 to 323 units overall. There are also requests to change side setbacks within these phases. There's also a request to modify condition of approval regarding the distribution of open space across the entire PUD. And there are minor phase changes for phases 9, 10, and 13. A little bit of background, this is the original approval site layout design for the Fox Hollow PUD. Phases 5, 6, and 7 are highlighted in the area in green, the southwest corner of the site. And this is the proposal now. The biggest changes you'll notice in that green area are, again, the multifamily and attached units being replaced with single-family detached alley-loaded development, or single-family development. A quick run-through of the changes per phase. Phase 5, which is in the southwest corner, which is an open space and stormwater tract, will be constructed with a pedestrian pathway, providing improved pedestrian access from Southwest 185th to, there we go, Southwest 185th down to Barrows Road, as well as connectivity through the alleys and Southwick Hallock Lane. Phase 6 will remove the multifamily development and instead include 57 units of alley-loaded detached dwellings and a new local street to provide access to those dwellings. And phase 7 will replace 57 attached units with 43 alley-loaded detached dwellings. The overall unit count for the entire PUD under this proposal would be 323 units. The original PUD approved back in 2018 identified the minimum unit count for the entire PUD to be 224. So under this proposal, we are still well above the minimum dwelling unit requirement for the entire PUD. Proposal also includes to modify condition of approval from the original PUD CU 2018-0001, more specifically condition of approval B.2.D and E. These conditions reflect the distribution of minimum open space for each phase. These are being modified to reflect the new unit count for each phase. It's worth noting that the amount of open space and resource preservation across the PUD is not changing with this condition of approval change. And in fact, as you can see in the bottom right corner of the graphic, the amount of required passive and active open space have been met. Passive open space provided is 3 times the minimum required, and the active open space provided is almost double the minimum required in the original PUD requirement. There is also a request in several lots in phases 6 and 7 to reduce the side yard setback to 3 feet. The original PUD approval allowed a reduction to 4 feet. Since the original approval, the site has been rezoned to RMA, which allows by zone a 3-foot or a 3-foot side setback. So this modification is requesting simply for lots to be able to be built to 3 feet to the property line as permitted by the underlying zone. Finally, there is modification of a subdivision included to make minor modifications to phase changes. These are highlighted in blue on the image to the right. The image to the left is the original phasing proposal. The area lined in blue to the southwest between phases 5 and 6 is being modified slightly to reflect the change in development, including the new Southwest Howlock Lane and the properties to the south curving around to meet 185th. So instead of a straight line, it's just going up to the northeast just a little bit to match the phase. And then you can see areas in blue here, phases 9, 10, and 13. These lot lines are changing ever so slightly, still well within the minimum required dimensions for lot size and lot width, but these phase lines are being moved simply to reflect the new lot lines proposed. In conclusion, staff is recommending approval of the Fox Hollow PUD modification subject to the conditions of approval. I will note, I know that we have had a change in our numbering system with our applications. So I wanted to make it clear that if there are to be any motions tonight, these two numbers up on the screen would be the numbers reference, that is PUD 3 2023-00722 and PS2 2023-00713. That concludes staff's presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions of staff with regard to the proposed application? Commissioner Ellis.
Hey, Steve, would you mind backing up a couple slides to the passive and active free space green
Sure.
areas? There we go. So this one caught my eye in the materials. The active space definition and the on-screen view here shows the active space as I'm gonna call them pathways or alleyways or something between units. These kind of narrow strips here. But the definition of active open space, gathering spots, community rooms, play areas, overlooks, those seem to be awkward dimensions and placements to count as those things.
Yeah, and a lot of this is captured through essentially trails. And the original PUD did allow for trails to be counted as active open space. So for the most part, this is kind of a carryover of that interpretation of what is allowed in active open space in a PUD for South Cooper Mountain.
Oh, okay. So like if I'm looking at those two tall, skinny green slivers on the right-hand side, are those kind of intended to be a trail?
That's exactly right, yes.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. All right, that makes more sense. And then the second question, obviously the unit reduction probably caught people's eyes. Understanding that we're still meeting the minimum requirements, I have my head in the last two meetings that we had over the last 2 weeks, where a lot of what we discussed was about density and achieving Beaverton planning goals of adding units. As part of any code or design procedures in the last couple of years, even though this new plan is meeting minimums, has there been any talk about requirements when people are dropping or decreasing previously approved plans to shed units, or is it simply that it's above minimum, so it's okay?
It is essentially the latter. Yes, when the original analysis is done in the PUD, essentially, well, in 2018 we had a minimum and maximum density, so there was a window set of, I believe, 223 and 461 was the original window there. So anything in between that would have been demonstrating compliance with the density standard. And like any other change that comes in, whether it's a PUD design review or otherwise, we would still be ensuring that the applicable design standards or density targets were still being met. So since this project still is within that window, or at least in this case, above the minimum, it is in compliance with the requirements of the PUD. And,
okay.
And that's what we utilize in our decision making and our recommendations to the commission.
Okay, gotcha. This isn't a question then, and it's outside the scope of this application. I would say that something to consider for future applications or code development long term would be when code changes, zones change, districts change, to allow people the opportunity to redevelop previously approved plans. In this case, to add certain types of units at the expense of decreasing overall units. The city should probably consider some guardrails of some kind that kind of protect overall inventory. But yeah, I'm saying this out loud, fully admitting it's outside the scope of this decision.
Yeah, and I just actually want to just pop in real quick. Anna Slatinsky, Planning Division Manager. I think it's important to distinguish between the conversations that we're having about the Cooper Mountain Community Plan where the city is actually setting policy and discussing writing new code to put in place that will then govern future land use decisions. The conversation about the proposal tonight is actually about applying regulations that have already been established. So there's an important difference between those two things. Once those regulations are in place, we have an obligation under state law and just kind of under basic kind of predictability to subject land use applications to the standards as they are in the development code. Even though we might say it would be great if this were more density, when folks come through and bring through these land use applications, we apply those standards in the code and the approval criteria that exist. That policy making conversation around, Cooper Mountain, which is of course just to the north of here, is really where we have the opportunity to say, what are those minimums that we're comfortable with that will still allow us to meet the policy goals that are laid out for that area? So there's a little bit of a nuance in terms of distinguishing those two types of opportunities that the Planning Commission has for exercising discretion and providing input.
Yeah, completely understood. And just to be very clear, 100% aligned. That opinion has no bearing on this application tonight. I just wanted to say all that stuff out loud. So we're good. That makes sense.
Thank you, Commissioner Ellis.
Commissioner Lawler?
Yeah, at the risk of belaboring that same point, but I think it's important. I mean, I think this development action proposal tonight kind of brings up some of these issues about reducing density on previously approved projects. And the question that arises in my brain that doesn't seem to be addressed because there's no criteria that talks about it is why? Why is there a need to reduce density? And I guess I could see that as possibly being something that staff may contemplate in the future as a criteria for approval when somebody proposes something like this in a different development. So that being said, I do have a question about this proposal, and it has to do with the current zoning of the property, which is either RMA, RMB, or RMC, which authorizes landowners to engage in middle housing development options. And I'm curious how that opportunity interplays with the PUD. For example, if somebody purchased one of these larger lots, would there be an opportunity for middle housing to be proposed, like a duplex or triplex, even if it's part of a PUD?
Thanks, Commissioner Lawler. You've identified a fun new challenge that middle housing has presented us of what do we do, especially when a proposal was approved 6 years ago, well before HB 2001 was ever considered. How do we marry those two things together? So the short answer is that there's a land use process to be able to do that. I would expect it could rise to the point of revisiting the PUD because that would be a change in unit count. I think we would have to go back and do a little bit of research to see what the proper approach would be and whether or not coming back to Planning Commission would be the appropriate and legal way, or if there would be a low level change to allow someone to go from a single family home to a duplex. So I don't have a direct answer for you. We can certainly look that up for you, but there would be at least some land use application that would provide an avenue for someone to do that in the future.
I think that would be important in order to, to get some of our density back, which is of course what our goal is, and to have housing that would be affordable, which is another big goal. And so anyway, thank you very much. And I hope we kind of delve into that gnarly little issue in the future, because I think will obviously come up. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lawler.
So at risk of continuing to belabor this, I just have one more just a technical question. So I understand that the application, we've been talking about the minimum density of, 232? Is that right?
That sounds correct, yes.
Somewhere in there. Out of curiosity, with the new zoning that allows for middle housing, did that change the minimum density requirements at all, or is this application, would it still be kind of meeting those minimums under the current?
The new zoning would, believe it or not, actually reduce the minimum zoning by just a little bit.
Okay.
So if we were to apply all of the new zoning, RMA, RMB, RMC, I won't get into the details about like how but essentially if we came in it today fresh, it would be 224, and the original was 235. So actually they could go all the way down to that, but they are 99 units above what would be minimum if this were to be a fresh application today.
Okay, I appreciate that. That's nice to put that in context. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any further questions? Okay, then I think we'll move on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the applicant will now have 20 minutes to present. Please begin by introducing yourselves and stating your names and addresses for the record.
Hello, my name is Pam Verdadero, and I'm with the New Home Company. Address is 15455 Northwest Greenbrier Parkway, Suite 240, and that's in Beaverton, 97007. And I handle the acquisitions and entitlements for New Home Company. And I would like to thank the staff for their excellent presentation. I don't know that we can add much more to that other than some maybe higher level, prettier renderings of the site. And I think too, in that presentation afterwards, we can talk about some of the questions that the Planning Commission has raised, because they're great questions. And I would like to take the time to address those questions. One main reason being, offering more for sale home ownership opportunities, and what is considered the new lower price on South Cooper Mountain. I am here with our civil engineer, Standridge Inc., and I will turn it over to Ingrid Friedberg to do our presentation this evening.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Ingrid Friedberg. Standridge Inc.'s address is 703 Broadway Street, Suite 610, Vancouver, Washington, 98660. And I'm going to share my screen with you right now for our presentation. All right, so thank you everybody for being here to hear our proposed modification to the 2018 approved Fox Hollow at South Cooper Mountain PUD. The changes being proposed are nominal in nature and involve changes to the dwelling type, density, phase lines, lot lines, open space areas, and setbacks. This does not include any proposed changes to the off-site improvements, other conditions of approval, or other required site improvements that were part of the 2018 approval. As for, sorry about that. As for the dwelling type changes, this provides an overview of what the approved housing consisted of and what the proposed housing consists of. So the approved housing count total was 461 lots, comprised of 224 single-family detached lots, 57 single-family attached lots, and 180 multifamily units. The proposed housing count total is 323 lots, comprised of 147 single-family detached standard size lots, 77 single-family detached small lots, and 99 single-family detached alley-loaded lots. A point that was being discussed earlier was the density. On the left-hand side here, you'll see the original approved lot for the 2018 decision, which included the 461 units. And on the right-hand side, you'll see the total proposed housing units of 323. And it's an overall reduction in 138 units. When this was approved in 2018, the code allowed for a maximum of 687 units and required a minimum density of 235 housing units. our proposed modifications are reviewed under the current code, which does not have a maximum allowable density, but does include a minimum required density of 224 housing units. As for the proposed phase line modification, we have drawn up the approved phase lines in red, and the proposed phase line modifications, as you can see, are between phases 5 and 6, 9 and 10, and 10 and 13. The proposed lot line modifications are also depicted here in blue, with the approved lot lines in red. And these lot line adjustments consist of 1 to 2 feet difference to accommodate different widths of the detached single family houses. And as you can see within phase 6, the lot lines that are appearing there in lieu of the multifamily housing unit. For open space, on the left-hand side, you'll see the approved open space areas, and on the right-hand side, the proposed open space areas. As Stephen was saying, we still exceed the minimum open space areas required by several times. On this slide, you can see on the left-hand side, the approved setbacks, and on the right-hand side, the proposed setbacks. And as Stephen was saying, the proposed reduction in setbacks are 3 feet, which are outright permitted in the RMA zoning district. So in conclusion, not significant changes are being proposed with this modification to the 2018 approved PUD, and these modifications are limited to changes in dwelling types, density, phase lines, lot lines, open space areas, and setbacks. This proposed modification does not involve changes to any of the required offsite improvements, no change to other conditions of approval, or other required site improvements as required by the 2018 decision. This is an example of what it could look like, the finished product at the Fox Hollow at South Cooper Mountain PUD. Thank you everyone for listening to this presentation, and we welcome your questions.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions of the applicant? Commissioner Ellis?
Yeah, thanks for walking us through that. Sorry, and again, this isn't relevant to, I think, approval. I'm just going to ask it anyway. What's the primary? Is it a business driver changing the?
No, actually, it's a consumer driver. So again, modifying 180 attached apartment for rent units to expand on a for sale homeownership opportunity in South Cooper Mountain. You know, the new affordable detached home has grown in price exponentially, and we are still seeing a shortage in single-family detached homes in the Portland metro area. So I know if anybody follows along, we were down in the less than one month of supply just a couple years ago. That gradually increased to 2 to 3 months of supply in the marketplace, and we are now at 3.2, and that's with high interest rates. So if you could imagine interest rates being what they were about 8-9 months ago, we would really be hurting on home ownership opportunities in South Cooper Mountain, Beaverton, Portland Metro, specifically close to this wonderful school that's brand new. So trying to help increase the attendance there as well. But that was the main driver. Was we are seeing some success at our nearby neighborhood Vineyard. Since rates have relaxed just a little bit, finally there's some acceptance in the marketplace that they're not going to drop too much further. And so as of January, February, even though this modification's been in the works for some time, it was our desire to bring more home ownership opportunities to South Cooper Mountain and Beaverton specifically. The alley load product is very popular. It's great price point for families entering first-time home purchases that want to be close to excellent schools. And without the attached product, dues are lower also because this is part of a homeowners association. So the qualification is a little bit easier than even some of the larger townhomes that we've been bringing or seeing in the marketplace as well. So overall, I think this is a great trade out for the site. It's a beautiful location, and again, a lot of desire to be in this neighborhood here in South Cooper Mountain.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Any other questions? Commissioner Lawler.
Sure. I'm as well, since I have you as a wrapped audience, as a developer, do you see any issue with someone who purchases one of your homes and maybe wants to create a duplex out of it, or build a unit behind it? Do you think that is that consistent with your goals for this area?
I would think that we could identify some lots within Fox Hollow that would be able to accommodate an ADU. Some of those deeper lots, kind of where the cursor is up there at the north end of the site. So long as it is, within the code of setbacks from rear yard fencing and other homes. But we've done a similar study in another neighborhood, and there is a number of home sites, even though things are getting more dense, with the front load rear backyard setting where someone could put a one-room ADU with a small kitchenette. Certainly not something in abundance with the alley load product at all, but over to the kind of the north, the quadrant right above the school site there, I think would be a little bit more accommodating.
I love those two lots with the super deep backyards.
I'm sorry, what's that?
I love those two lots in the north with the super deep backyards.
Yeah, we'll probably have a long list for those.
Right. Are there any other
Thank you.
from commissioners? So. Nope. Oh,
Actually, I do have a question, because the project looks really good and density is still there, but do you have something in your CC&Rs where it allows for ADUs?
We have to allow for ADUs because it's part of the code. So I believe that's within our current CC&Rs, actually, at our other nearby neighborhoods.
Thanks, Pat.
Sure.
Okay. Are there any further questions by commissioners? Doesn't look like it. So we are now at the public testimony portion for this agenda item. Thank you very much for your presentation. We will call for testimony in groups, starting with those in favor of the application, then those in opposition to the application, and those neither in favor nor in opposition. Testimony is limited to the criteria that apply to the application. Do we have anyone? It does not appear that we have anyone participating today. Okay. So then we will, staff has stated that we do not have any public testimony today, so we will move on. Does the staff have any final comments?
Yes, Chairman Kent, a couple of items. Thank you. Again, Steve Regner, City of Beaverton. I wanted to address two items that came up. One, there was a question of whether or not CC&Rs would be able to prohibit middle housing or ADUs. Change in state law is actually not allowed to occur anymore. So any new CC&Rs approved by any municipality, they could not prohibit the addition of an ADU. So that's not something we'll have to worry about now, thanks to the state law. The other item I wanted to identify was actually an error by staff in their presentation. I'm going to bring up a screen really quickly just to clarify. Staff did identify that there are several small phase line changes One that staff did not identify is actually between phase 12 and the phase just to the right. It originally was essentially located right here where my cursor is, and it's moved to the right just a little bit. The applicant's materials, both submitted in your packet and shown in the presentation, I did display it accurately, but staff did not mention it in their presentation. So we just wanted to clarify that discrepancy and note that it was staff's error and the applicant's materials are accurate. And that's all we have.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, with final comments completed, close the public hearing, and as a standard procedure, I will randomly poll commissioners to see if
Chair, I think, did we lose your audio?
you can hear me.
Is that just me?
No, it faded out.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes, this is better.
Okay, I have no idea what's going on with my computer today. It was just given a once over in our IT department this afternoon, so I might have some bugs to work out. Excuse me. So I'm going to state all that again, just in case it didn't end up being recorded. So with final comments completed, I will close the public hearing, and as is standard procedure, I will randomly poll commissioners to state their conclusions on the application. Commissioner Ellis.
Yeah, I think my opinions came through in the questions, just general high-level stuff I'd love to do at the city level, but for this application specifically, it looks like it meets the requirements it needs to meet, and the due diligence from the design and developers was well done, and Steve answered the right questions, so I can't see a lot of questions for me.
Thank you. Commissioner Akal.
I agree with Mr. Ellis too. It's pretty simple and straightforward project.
Right. Commissioner Lawler.
Yeah, as much as I hate to lose density in these areas where, we're trying to promote more housing and more affordable housing, this application is meets the criteria, and it looks like it actually is a very well-designed, largely single-family detached development. So I think it meets the criteria.
Great, thank you. And I am in agreement with my fellow commissioners. So is there a motion?
I'll go ahead, Commissioner Lawler.
Oh, go ahead, if you'd like to.
I move that we approve application numbers PUD 32023-00722 and PS 22023-00713 based on the information provided, staff report dated February 21st, including any and all conditional uses included in that.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Is there any discussion? All right. A vote will be taken by roll call. When your name is called, please say yay or nay. Commissioner Ellis.
Aye.
Commissioner Akal.
Yes.
Commissioner Lawler.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. The motion passes unanimously. The Planning Commission's decision will be memorialized in land use orders that will be provided to all parties that provided oral and written testimony. If you would like to appeal this decision, you must appeal in accordance with the applicable provisions in the Beaverton Development Code and the rules of the Land Use Board of Appeals. And so with that, we are now adjourned at 7:10 p.m.
Good night, everyone.